Hello. I want to talk a little bit more about celebrating my 60th birthday. What does it mean to be present for this opportunity? And what does it mean to go beyond the birthday cake and the celebrations, which I have to say my family and friends have really made it already a delightful piece. And one of the things that's been really exciting for me is I've always celebrated how long can I make my birthday last for? And once my mother-in-law gave me a present in February, and my birthday is not till the end of May. So I had a good 4 months to say that I had already started celebrating my birthday. And the last present that came in was the end of August. It was like 6 months of celebrating my birthday. Now, I know people will think that's a little bit crazy, but there are some people that when they have a milestone, it stops them in their tracks and they think about all the things they haven't done yet, all the regrets that they might have. And that transition into the next decade is a really tough one. And I have always strived not to do that. I have always strived that it is a celebration to the next part. I'm so privileged to be able to say that I've made it to my 60s and that I am vibrant. And although I have some aches and complaints, I still have this incredible opportunity for living. And I want to share that joy and how I bring that. So with the beginning of my celebrations, I love that if a card arrives early or a wish comes in ahead of my birthday, it's so beautiful. But this time I also invited my parents to come because, hey, for 60 years, I've been their daughter. And how lovely is that? My dad has enjoyed 60 Father's Days. And my mom, I was born just after Mother's Day, so she's had 59 Mother's Days. And to be able to have them here to celebrate, but then also for my family and to be able to spend time with them and to reflect on what has it meant for my life to have this opportunity to share my experiences and my times and my joys and my inspirations with my family members. So my mom, when she arrived, had put together some pictures. So you can, which way can I go here? You can see them behind me here. And so there's pictures of me as a baby. There's pictures with me and my sister. My sister has been such an incredible part of my life. And we always have enjoyed the family gatherings and the surprises, the ways that we can surprise our parents, but also how we can do celebrations together. We have a lot of fun when we get together. We do a lot of banter and a lot of card playing games. And that's been a great ritual that we have. And we've supported each other every which way we can. And from a distance, because now we live across the country from each other, it's been a little tougher. But those first pictures are here on the charts. But then there's a picture from me at Universal Studios. And it was when my kids were young, and my parents and I took the kids to Disneyland and to Universal Studios. And the sign says, I always just wanted to direct. And I looked at that picture and I thought, I remember standing there to take the picture with it and being the dancer, being the choreographer, but then realizing, yeah, being able to direct. I love being able to support people to, there's an idea in place. How can we get there? How many people can be involved? How can we make it happen? And so I think that's been my calling more than being an educator. There are pictures there from when my husband and I first met each other and when we were cyclists and the fun we had cycling and the outfits we wore at our wedding. There is a picture there with my great grandmother, and she unfortunately had a stroke the night after the wedding. But leading up to that, she was so delighted to be at the wedding, and she was 88 at that time, and she had made 200 mini cabbage rolls because cabbage rolls were so important for the Hungarian tradition, and how many cabbage rolls the bride would eat would be how many children she would have. And my great grandmother wanted those cabbage rolls to be absolutely perfect. And so that's also on the backdrop here. But there's lots of little milestones where we dressed up for parties, where we had weddings and celebrations, and some of the antics that we got up to in that. And it was absolutely delightful to look at the things that my parents felt were exciting about what I had done in their time watching me grow, and then what they put on the poster. So it's been really fun to look at that. So I've talked a little bit about some of the things across the years leading up to being 60, and thinking of myself as a dancer, wanting to be a dancer, knowing that that wouldn't last my whole lifetime, because at the time when I was coming through as a dancer, dancers worked until their mid-20s. Then they were usually injured by that time and moved on to careers usually in teaching. And I actually stopped practicing the piano at 16, working on my grade 9 conservatory, thinking I'll come back to it when I can't dance anymore, because that'll only be for a couple of years, and then I'll come back to playing piano. And I've never actually made it back to practicing at that level, but I have enjoyed the expertise of that, and I've enjoyed the musicality that I gained from my musical training to help me interact with musicians as a dancer, but also as a choreographer or as a director. And so that's been really cool. So over the years, I have had different versions of myself. So I had that young person, I had myself as the dancer, then the teacher, and then I moved into the healing work, so becoming a healer. Then there's the idea of an entrepreneur. So running my dance studio is celebrating 38 years this year. And I never imagined that when I opened Dance Debut, I chose Debut because I thought it would be like an opening piece that I did, not knowing it would have such a longevity. But that led to being an entrepreneur for a very long time. And my business has gone up and down in its successes, and it's had some challenges for sure. But in the end, the scope and the vision that I originally had has always been there. And I've been able to maintain that company into what it is today. And I just want to bring about the idea of inspiring, because for many women, it's been very difficult to be an entrepreneur, but also to have consistency and an income. And the more we strive and work at that, the better it's going to be. But also there'll be those who come after us who are going to follow in our footsteps, but have learned from our mistakes and our growth. So this is definitely an opportunity for moving that forward. I wanted to talk a little bit about one milestone that was kind of a surprise, and that was my podcast. And I thought when I started the podcast, I thought if Michelle Obama can do a podcast, I could listen to how she put it together, and I could do that for a little bit, maybe a year. And now I'm on season 6. And the other thing that was interesting about that is when I introduced the idea, I said to my son, I think I want to do a podcast. And I've been listening to Michelle's podcast. And he said, well, you'll need to do a script. Well, I've been doing a lot of shows with a lot of choreography. I've done a lot of speaking. I didn't think I needed a script, but I thought I'm going to listen to him and see what happens. And because I did, it's led to some really interesting conversations where we don't just go off topic or a ramble around the topic. We actually target the topic very specifically. And so I've had this incredible opportunity to think through my podcast and how I want to highlight the person I'm interviewing, but the subject we're talking about as well. And I've noticed over the 6 years that we've been working on this, I had to skirt around some of the topics that were considered woo-woo or magical. And I was very careful to try and stay concrete. But what's happened over the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, and people finding their health and wellness tools is that conversation has really changed. And the recordings that I've done now, I have really dove really deep into some concepts through Touch for Health and bioenergetic wellness that have really targeted into emotions in a way that people have not been talking about, and also to explore trauma in a different way. And that has led me to really think differently about what I do in my own life for resolving some of the issues that bring my feet into pain, or my knees or my hips, and how I can rework things. And what is it that I can offer back to the listener in tools and tips that they can pick up easily and put in their toolbox? And that all came because I decided to write the script. So I have to thank my son for making that suggestion, and I'm glad that I stuck to it. So I want to talk a little bit about my lessons, because the 60s, there's a lot of lessons that have come by. I definitely did not do anything perfectly. I have had lots and lots of blunders along the way, and that's created different kinds of wisdom. So things that I've learned about is boundaries. One of the biggest challenges I had was learning Tai Chi from my dad, and the power struggle between son and daughter, and learning from a parent. And that really helped me to understand how to listen better, how to be open to suggestion, and how to explore something, even though I didn't want to look at it, and then what that's meant for me. And it's also meant that when I've been working with my mom in some of the ways that she works with Tai Chi, we've had some incredible discussions, and we've taken the subject of the seated Tai Chi form into such an advanced conversation over what was available to us when we went researching. And it's all because of that learning of boundaries that was really important. Learning to rest, I'm not very good at that. I have a hard time resting, but I have definitely learned in the last couple of years, coming out of all the different colds and things that come along, that it is really important to take the time to be present, to rest, to connect to nature, to be observant of where you're pushing too hard and where you need to let go. I'm not very good at it, but I'm working at it. The other is learning to ask for support. And I am really good at directing, so I'm really good at, delineating out for other people and helping to bring groups of people together to get things accomplished, definitely. But asking for support can be tough. And when I ask for support, I'm always surprised. And I think that's part of the collaborative process that I've put in the last couple of years, is a way to ask for support and to grow and learn from that. Learning to trust intuition. When I started into Touch for Health, I always had pined for somebody who is clairvoyant, intuitive, empathic. I thought, you had to be born with all that. And you are. You just have to know how to cultivate it. And what I have really learned in these last few years, particularly from teaching online, is how to sense other people's physical challenges. So if they have a pain somewhere or a mobility issue, I can understand it because of the training across being online that I've done. And so trusting that intuition, it grew, but also now I really lean into it. And it has meant for some interesting conversations when people realize I understand what that ankle pain means, or how alignment isn't working for them. And then I can support them in helping them to move or feel better. And then the last one, learning to release control. I'm not sure if my husband would say I've accomplished that one, but I'm going to strive for that in my 60s into 70s. And as I do move into retirement years and looking at things a little bit slower paced or in a different light, the ability to let go of some of the things that I thought I needed to control, that's going to be a journey for me. But you can watch and see what happens. All right. I would like to invite you to think about how you celebrate joy. I'm going to do that always with favorite tea moments, but I also have my favorite music moments. Oh, the amazing musicians I've been able to work with and learn from, the movement opportunities, being out in nature, what it means to be able to look up at the stars and not have them diffused by the light in the city. what it's like to hear the birds first thing in the morning, the wind whistling through the trees. It's just so beautiful. Spontaneous laughter. One of the things my family does very well is joke and also to let go, to play together. And spontaneous laughter is really, really important for nurturing me. And I enjoy every moment I get to do that with my family. And the last is singing. None of you are going to hear me sing out loud at any presentation, but I will tell you that singing in the car and singing to my favorite music while I'm cleaning the house by myself is so wonderful, to find that joy in getting that vocal piece come out. And as I've done some of the podcasts on voice, it's also been great to talk about that. So now I'm going to ask, what are you celebrating right now, no matter what your age is? But I would invite you to create special moments and then anchor it. Today, I'm going to anchor it by celebrating the brilliance created by every season of life. And I give you a toast with Nature's Diamond, the tea blend that I created for my birthday. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope I've given you some ideas to reflect on. Cheers.